Okay, imagine falling into a really deep sleep and just remaining exactly like that for an entire century. In our explainer today, we're diving into a genuinely profound historical narrative about time, the absolute finality of death, and the ultimate power of resurrection. We'll be looking at a deeply revered figure, Hazrat Uzair, peace be upon him, and an event that completely defies the everyday fabric of human reality. And we're not talking about a myth here, but an extraordinary documented demonstration of divine power. Let's jump right into this staggering journey and see exactly how this miracle actually unfolded. So, our narrative kicks off with this incredibly haunting scene. Hazrat Uzair is passing through a settlement that is just completely destroyed, utterly desolate. Picture a landscape defined by absolute ruin and this heavy, deafening silence. The roofs have all caved in, walls are literally crumbling, and there are absolutely zero signs of life anywhere. No movement, no voices, it's just the eerie remnants of a place that has been entirely wiped off the map. Standing right there in the middle of that total devastation, facing the absolute end of what used to be a thriving community, the emotional and intellectual weight of that moment is just overpowering. Looking around at all this devastation, a really profound question naturally forms in his heart. Oh my lord, how will Allah bring this city back to life after its death? Now, it's absolutely crucial to understand something here. This is not a question of disbelief, not at all. It's a question born out of deep human awe and just pure philosophical wonder. I mean, when you're surrounded by something that is so entirely erased, so totally dead, the human mind genuinely struggles to compute how life could ever possibly return to that space. It's really the ultimate question about the boundaries between life, death, and what lies beyond our everyday understanding. Well, the answer to that monumental question isn't some verbal explanation or a gentle philosophical reassurance. Instead, it's an immediate act of divine will. It's a direct, instantaneous demonstration of supreme power over life and death. And the response is absolutely staggering. Right there, in that exact moment, a state of death is brought upon him. He doesn't get a long lecture on the mechanics of resurrection. He is plunged straight into the very experience he was just wondering about. He's placed into this deep, absolute suspension of life, right in the middle of those silent ruins. In a single instant, this deep sleep takes hold, and from there, the sheer weight of time just takes over. Days slowly turn into months, and months steadily turn into years. Think about it. The seasons change over those ruins. The harsh heat of summer gives way to the freezing winter cold, year in and year out. The rest of the world just keeps moving on. Entire generations are born, they live out their whole lives, and they pass away. Yet, he remains completely suspended. Until finally a full 100 years are completed. An entire century flies by, leaving him essentially frozen in time, completely enveloped by that supreme divine will. Then, after that massive, just unfathomable gap in time, comes the awakening. By divine command, he's brought back to life. He opens his eyes. But here's the really fascinating psychological reality of this moment. To him, there is no century, no missing time. He feels like he's only been asleep for a brief moment, maybe just a quick afternoon nap. His internal clock completely failed to register the passing of decades. He wakes up completely, blissfully unaware of the massive chasm of time that just opened up and closed while his eyes were shut. Instantly, his whole perception of reality gets challenged. An unseen voice addresses him directly with a very specific, pointed question. "O Uzair, how long have you remained in this state?" Now, this is such a brilliant narrative moment because it essentially forces him to actively assess his own situation. The voice isn't just handing him the answers on a silver platter, it's prompting him to rely on his own human logic and his own senses first. It so perfectly sets up the stark impending contrast we're about to see between human understanding and divine reality. So, relying entirely on those everyday senses, he gives a really simple, incredibly relatable answer. Perhaps a day or even less. And honestly, who could blame him, right? When we wake up from a deep sleep, our only real gauge of time is the position of the sun or just how rested we feel. His human perception of time is perfectly intact. It's functioning exactly as it's supposed to. But it is fundamentally completely mismatched with the profound truth of his situation. And this perfectly natural assumption beautifully tees up the staggering revelation that is about to drop. The unseen voice immediately corrects him with this absolute earth-shattering truth. No, a full 100 years have passed over you. I really want you to just let the gravity of that statement sink in for a second. Imagine waking up, stretching, thinking it's the exact same afternoon, only to be told that an entire century has vanished. Literally 100 years. Gone. The sheer shock he must have felt in that moment, it's unimaginable. His entire framework of reality, of time, and of his own existence is just completely shattered in one single sentence. But, as we're about to see, the lesson goes way beyond just a verbal revelation. To back this up, the voice provides undeniable, physical proof that brilliantly illustrates the creator's absolute control over the rules of nature. He is told to look at his belongings. He checks his food and his fruit, and they are completely fresh, perfectly preserved. There is literally not a single sign of spoiling. Time stood entirely still for them. But then, he looks over at his ride, his donkey. The animal has died, its body has decayed completely to dust, and only these scattered, bleached bones remain. For the donkey, the full ravaging effects of 100 years have absolutely taken their toll. It is this breathtaking paradox sitting right there, side by side. But the demonstration of absolute power isn't over yet. The voice draws his attention to those scattered donkey bones, and right before his eyes, a physical miracle unfolds. By divine command, those century-old bones actually begin to move. They join together, rebuilding the skeleton right there in the dirt. Then flesh and skin rapidly cover the reconstructed frame. And in just a matter of moments, the donkey stands up, fully alive. The very essence of the question he asked back in that ruined city, how life comes from death, is visually, tangibly answered right in front of his face. Witnessing this undeniably visceral miracle firsthand, his reaction is just deeply profound and beautifully human. Tears well up in his eyes, and he bows his head humbly. I mean, think about what he just went through. He just experienced the suspension of his own life, the absolute pausing of time for his food, the harsh acceleration of time for his animal, and finally, the immediate, triumphant reversal of death itself. The intellectual wonder he felt at the beginning of the story, that has been entirely replaced by a deep, overwhelming awe. Which brings us to his powerful final realization. I bear witness and have complete conviction that indeed Allah has power over all things. This right here is the ultimate resolution to our explainer's core narrative. That initial question of his, the one he asked looking out over that desolate, ruined city, it wasn't ignored, it was answered with an overwhelming, undeniable demonstration that the rules of nature, the mechanics of life, and the flow of time itself are entirely subservient to the Creator. His conviction is now totally complete, built on direct, irrefutable experience. And that leaves us with a really powerful final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer today. Looking at that perfectly fresh fruit sitting right next to the century-old, resurrected bones, we really have to ask ourselves, does the passage of time strictly control our reality, or does a higher power actually control time itself? The profound narrative we explored today boldly asserts the latter. It pushes us to look way past the everyday rules of nature and genuinely consider the boundless power that governs existence, life, and resurrection. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive, and keep questioning the profound boundaries of the world around you.